Are we in a manliness crisis? What is a man? The January 6th tapes were exposed and more. Guys, we got a lot to cover here today on Speechless. I know I just accidentally did the cut for time logo there too, but it's fine. We are not cut for time today. We are going the full 2 hours, not maybe even more. We got so much to cover here, everybody. And if this is your first time tuning in, thank you so much for doing so. I'm your host, Phares, 22-year-old conservative college student out of Central Illinois, host of Speechless on Cities 92.9. That's what you guys are going to be watching today. We are about to go live on the radio. And make sure that if you guys, if you have not already, like this video, smash that like button. Comment what you think, subscribe to the channel, hit your notification bell to all, because we know ScrewTube tries to keep me off of it, and share this with your friends. If everybody who watches shares, then we'll keep getting these messages out there, and that's the purpose of this show. So let's get into it. We're coming live soon. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond. Why do I say beyond? Because I'm streaming this live. I'm not only live in studio, but I am live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Sometimes Rumble, but sometimes I have other things I do in the studio. I can't always get it on Rumble, but it will be uploaded later if possible, too. So, we have so much to talk about here today, guys. I'm your host, Phares, if you did not already know that, and I say this on my YouTube live stream and everything too, but I'm a 22-year-old conservative college student here at Illinois State University in Central Illinois, president of the chapter of Turning Point USA, everything like that. And I love to be talking to you guys on Sundays. I will be graduating in a month. I'm hoping that we're going to keep Speechless going here on the radio. But I will be graduating here in a month, so I'll no longer be just a college student. I'll be a college graduate at that point. And I can safely tell you, pending the next few weeks of classes, that I will have survived college without becoming a liberal. And that's something I'm very proud to be able to say. But I also want to, before I get into all the content of today's show, which I have a lot, I want to give a big shout out to Paul Garcia Productions. Paul Garcia Productions out of Central Illinois creates stunning and effective video advertisements for local businesses, even in some cases, local government. And he just does amazing work. He's a proud sponsor of this show. He is a member. He is a person that's been on my YouTube channel before and even on Speechless on the radio as well. And he just does amazing work. If you want your business to get more business, make sure you guys check out Paul Garcia Productions today. Paul Garcia Productions is amazing stuff. The reason why we are able to bring Cities 92.9 on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, all that stuff is because of Paul's help. So definitely check him out. Great guy. But let's get into this, guys. Manliness. What is a man? Why am I talking about this? Well, many of you likely woke up this morning, maybe went to church, turned on some football, looked forward to tuning into Speechless with me, which I'd be honored if that's what you did. Maybe you, I don't know, went out deer hunting, skinned a deer. It is hunting season. I don't know what you guys do. And while there's solace in a relaxing, normal, average Sunday, you may not realize that today is actually a very, very special Sunday. November 19th, 2023. That's today. For many reasons, it's special. This week, we do have Thanksgiving. I might talk about that a little bit, of course. You might have liberal family members that you're going to have to coerce with, or not coerce, but deal with at the dinner table. But today specifically, beyond Thanksgiving, you may not know that today is International Men's Day. Now, why might you not know that? We always are inundated with liberal and feminist propaganda on International Women's Day in the spring. But why does nobody talk about International Men's Day? And that's because it's truly because I believe there is an attack on men in this country. There's an attack on gender, period. I've talked about that many times on this show. But today we're going to focus on men specifically a lot. And I'm going to get into that a lot more. But first, we must discuss what a man is. A question I often ponder as a young man myself. Who am I? What am I supposed to be? I know that's super philosophical, and we're going to be a little more philosophical here today. But this discussion is really not about the gender ideology to me. What we're going to talk about today will act on the presumption that men are men and women are women, the biological presumption, and that you cannot change that. But what does it really mean to be a man outside of the biological imperatives? What makes a good man? In a world where feminazis and leftist zealots will scream that masculinity is toxic, chivalry is sexist, and that men need to wear dresses, play with dolls, and defy gender roles to actually be a good man. How do we ignore their noise and stay on the route to true manliness? And what even is that? How do we deal with it? Some put their faith in false prophets like Andrew Tate, a former kickboxer and influencer, who correctly points out the contradictory messages that have pushed young men to be disgruntled and unhappy in today's world. But he incorrectly pushes that emotionless promiscuity and chasing vanity as an antidote to modern societal woes are the answer. But that's not the answer. Using women as sexual objects and driving a Bugatti does not a man make. So I've posed the question multiple times. What makes a man? What is a man? I've told you some of what it's not, and I don't have all the answers. I'm 22. I'm a kid, basically. I'm an adult, but like, heck, I do not have the age-old wisdom of David Paul Blumenschein or many of you out there that might be watching. And so I do want to invite you to text or call in at 309-451-9299 is that call line, 309-451-9299. And while I attempt to answer some of these questions in my youthful wisdom, I'd love to know what your guys' thoughts are. What is a man? What makes a man? And this is not a question just for men. Women should be involved in this conversation as well. What makes a man? But I think I have learned a bit in my youth. And that's the first thing. What I just kind of went through there. That's the first thing that makes a man. A man has humility. As I just did, he can admit when he doesn't know everything. Like I just did. When he's wrong, he admits when he's wrong. When he's been granted something that he doesn't deserve, but takes it and uses it to its full potential. For me, that's my platform. My platform on this radio station. My platform on YouTube, Facebook, everywhere. My ability to speak and articulate what I'm saying. That's God-given. It's not something I deserve. It's something I work at and work to be better at and do better at, because that's what a man does. He takes his God-given gifts and uses them to their full potential with humility. Humility isn't a trait of the current era. Selfishness and pride are widespread in society. Don't believe me? Look outside. I've used this anecdote, this hypothetical anecdote on my show a lot. Back in the day, which makes me sound a lot older than I am, but back in the day, you used to be able to go ask your neighbor for a cup of sugar, for some milk, something like that. Now, on pretty much every door that I see in suburbia where my parents are from, where I was born and raised, there is a sign on the door that says, "No soliciting." No soliciting. I have people on my street where, and these people I think take it a little too far. But if a Boy Scout comes and tries to sell them popcorn, they'll call the police. Like seriously, that actually happens. There's a general distrust of people in society nowadays that was not here 30, 40, 50 years ago. Because there is so much more selfishness surrounding us. And pride. That was the other thing I mentioned, the almost direct antithesis of humility. Pride, not only in the LGBTQ sense, where they have framed an entire movement off of caring only about who they are in a sexual sense, but also simple pride from our politicians and our petulant elites that consistently go out into the public. And while they might pander to you with sayings of, oh, well, because of the way that you were born, you're never going to be able to make it, but we can offer you the solution. There's a sense of pride to that. A sense that, well, I can do it. I can provide it for you from our government. There's a huge sense of pride in that. We no longer have a society that preaches and respects the ideas of humility. And so what does a man do in this situation? A man rejects modernity and embraces traditionalism. Modernity is antithetical to manliness. Historically uninformed leftists will argue that when I say this, that we should reject modernity and embrace traditionalism, they'll argue that I'm telling men to beat their wives, catcall women, and perform other objectively sexist, if not even criminal behavior. No, I'd like to make it clear. That is not masculine. It's not manly. It's not traditional. It's not at all. It was ills of our past society that also failed in areas of manliness. A traditional man is a provider not only in the fiscal sense that we tend to think of, a provider of through working and jobs, while the wife may take care of the children at home and household duties. However, in my family growing up, that was not the way it was. My mom also worked while also taking care of many household duties. It is possible. But back to the point of being a provider, a man also provides security, love, a provider of being a biblical moral example for his household. He's also resilient and a leader, even through the hardest times. And that leads me into another reason why today is such an important day, everybody. Yes, it is International Men's Day. But today is also the 160th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. Back in about 2020, through a lot of COVID, I had the opportunity to go visit Gettysburg. I saw where Abraham Lincoln gave the Gettysburg Address. I visualized it in my head. I saw battlefields around Gettysburg, the town. Small, quaint town, beautiful though, especially around the battlefields. You can stand up in really tall towers and be able to look across them. Absolutely beautiful. I recommend it to anybody. It's not the kind of place where you'd necessarily go near for a vacation or something. It's kind of out of the way in Pennsylvania, but it's an amazing, amazing sight to see. I highly recommend it. But today is, like I said, the 160th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. This speech is a perfect example of manliness. Why? Why is it? Well, I'm going to answer that by reading through the 272 words spoken by the first Republican president that served as a rallying cry to rid America of its original sin in 1863. And I want to be clear about that because I'm coming up against a break here on the radio, and so I'm going to have to take that break before I get into the full Gettysburg Address. But that last sentence I just said to you, it is 272 words, which, if you don't know, is less than a page, spoken by the first Republican president. That's also important because the left continuously will tell us that Republicans are awful, that they're racist. But this was a rallying cry for the Union members, those fighting against slavery, our race-based slavery in America, where if you listen to Ty Smith, he goes a lot more into how slavery is not originally race-based, and he goes into it great. He talked about it a little bit yesterday. But we're going to talk about America and our original sin. Again, we have to have that humility that I talked about. We did have slavery in this country. It was bad. But thank God for our first Republican president for fighting the fight, even in hopeless times. Even in hopeless times. And we're going to cover the Gettysburg Address. We're going to cover more about manliness. We're going to cover January 6th and the tapes being released and how that even relates to all of this. We're going to cover some societal issues. What are icks? A lot of people my age have been talking about an ick. We're going to talk about that. We're going to define it using an article from Cosmopolitan. Really, I'm going to use an article from Cosmopolitan on this show. Never thought I'd say that. This is an exciting show, guys, and I'm so excited to be talking to you guys. If you're listening on the radio, don't forget you can check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, all that fun stuff. And we will be right back with so much more of Speechless. Thank you for tuning in. Okay, everybody in the comments section, thank you so much for tuning in. Let's see what you guys have to say here. Demon Goral, thank you so much for tuning in. Oklahoma Chicken Cam, great guy. MSM doesn't want you to know. Brad, appreciate you tuning in. Don't know what you mean by that, but thank you. Got some Southern Illinois there. JRC1, great guy. Thanks for tuning in. A man in general has relinquished his leadership and society has nurtured it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Andrea, my favorite anarchist. I'm sure you'll have stuff to say about this topic today in terms of manliness, and you are always invited to call in. Everybody's invited to call in. I definitely want this, as with all my shows, I'm serious, as with all my shows, I want this to be a conversation that we have together. Speechless. The title of this show, other than just being the fact that it was the last book I read by Michael Knowles before I started the show, is also about the idea that we know about the silent majority. We know about the entire idea that, but we cannot be silent any longer. We can't let them make us speechless. And so we got to all be involved in these conversations. So definitely text, call in 309-451-9299. Andrea loves men, and so does Demon Goral. I love men. Me too, Andrea. I love men. I'm getting more philosophical here today in some aspects. We'll get into some more news like the J6 stuff, but David Paul Blumenshine, who hosts the show right before me on Cities, covered that like his entire show. Ty obviously covered a bit of that yesterday. I think I bring a little bit of a different perspective, but that'll likely be more in the second hour that I get to that stuff. I always got to have my water on me. It's cold and flu season right now, too. So I'm feeling a little bit of a cough. I don't know. What are you guys doing? I got some football up on that TV, keeping an eye on that. What are you guys doing to enjoy your Sunday besides just watching and or listening to this? Let me know in the comments. I'm coming back live on the radio. Let's do it. Oh, yeah, we're going to thrive here on Speechless, everybody. Hey, and welcome back. I'm your host, Kev Phares, 22-year-old conservative college student at Illinois State University, but also the host of Speechless on this show, which you guys are listening to right now on this radio station. But you can also check it out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, all that fun stuff. Don't forget to like everything, subscribe to the channel, comment what you think, share it with your friends. I have a great time doing all this kind of content. I do off-air content, too, there, where I cover other news that I might not be able to cover. It's sometimes shorter, so it doesn't fit into my radio show in the same way. It doesn't fit the flow, whatever. But today we're covering a lot of different stuff. And a big topic we're covering is manliness. Today is International Men's Day, which you probably didn't know about. Again, as I covered in the first segment, you probably didn't know about it because the wokies don't want you to really care about men. Men have relinquished so much in our society. And while many will claim that we have a patriarchy, that's simply not true. That's simply not true. And now I'm not arguing that men need to be the rulers of society and women need to be subservient. Of course, I am not arguing that. I am not an imbecile. What I am saying is that we lack manliness nowadays, and it's labeled, traditional manliness is labeled as toxic masculinity. And it's leading to a lot of negative effects. And I'm going to cover some of those, but I want to finish the conversation about what is a man. What does it truly mean to be a man? And this is a shorter segment, but I was just about to get into the Gettysburg Address because it is the 160th anniversary today. Not only is it International Men's Day, but it is the 160th anniversary of the Gettysburg Address being delivered in 1863 in Pennsylvania. Now, this is an incredibly important speech, 272 words. And I'm going to read it here for you guys right now. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent, a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met with a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it. Far above our poor power to add or detract, the world will little note nor long remember what we say here. But it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work. I want to repeat that. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work, which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead, we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from this earth. That is the Gettysburg Address, spoken 160 years ago, a lot more than 77, by President Lincoln, the first Republican president, who was ultimately responsible for the Union winning the war and slavery, America's original sin, being abolished. Now, how does this relate to manliness? What does this mean? Well, the original purpose of this speech was the official dedication of the Soldiers' National Cemetery, now called the Gettysburg National Cemetery. It was an important occasion for the nation to honor the thousands of Americans who had given their lives during the Battle of Gettysburg. But it was much more than that. You notice that when in the speech, Lincoln says, in a larger sense. Lincoln was not the main speaker of this event at Gettysburg. He delivered this after a 2-hour oration of the battle from Edward Everett. Then Lincoln speaks for 2 minutes. So 2 hours, and then Lincoln, the president and the Union general, speaks for 2 minutes. And that's the part that everyone remembers. Why? Have you guys ever listened to a 2-hour speech? Like a 2-hour speech, not just like this, like what I'm doing on YouTube or on the radio and stuff like that. A 2-hour speech. President Trump gives them all the time. It can get kind of boring, not going to lie. Some people got to go to the bathroom. They zone out. They get hungry, tired, whatever. Lincoln got up and kept it short and sweet after that and said in plain words what needed to be said to rally the troops. And this is kind of a metaphor for the war in and of itself. By the time of this address, the war had been going on for just over 2 years, the Civil War. People were tired. They'd been fighting hard, and I guarantee for some, hope was scarce. So then Lincoln gets up after a 2-hour oration of what everybody had already kind of seen and known. And what does he do? He says the United States is the last best hope for free people on earth, and that is something worth fighting for. That we cannot let those who died die in vain. He draws upon biblical concepts of suffering, consecration, and resurrection. He summarized the war as a momentous chapter in the global struggle for self-government, liberty, and equality. A message that everyone needed to hear to remind them why they were fighting. That the great American experiment is worth fighting for, and he did it in 2 minutes. And that's a message that we all probably need to hear right now. And now I'd like to be clear, we're not necessarily in a civil war in the sense that we were back then. But I know that the current state of the country, with the liars being exposed, the policies in place that are showing to be a threat to the fabric of our nation, I know with all that hope might seem scarce. But we have fighters, and we need more. And it's a rallying cry like the Gettysburg Address that we need now more than ever. And it's men that we need more than ever. We have a fight, and we will win it. And that's the message from the Gettysburg Address. And it's a manly message. And on this International Men's Day and the 160th anniversary of the Gettysburg Address, which I believe is not a coincidence that those two fall on the same day, we are going to cover exactly why that's a manly message in the next segment, because I got to take a quick break here on the radio, everybody. We will be right back on with more Speechless on Cities 92.9. Don't forget to also check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble. But listen to our advertisers because they support us as well and allow for these messages to get out there. So thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be right back with more on this International Men's Day Gettysburg Address special of Speechless. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okie dokie, everybody. I am off air now. And I hope you guys, I love the Gettysburg Address. I've always loved that speech. I loved visiting Gettysburg a few years ago. So that's what we got. Raven Nevermore, thank you for tuning in. I see you guys are having some fun conversations in the chat here. Water is bad for you. Drink Diet Coke. Okay, Trump. No, he wouldn't actually say that, but I know he's a big Diet Coke fan. I do like Diet Coke, but I have massive bottles of water. You need to have them when you're speaking for 2 hours, basically. I wonder if Edward Everett had that when he was at the Battle of Gettysburg. I'm curious. Oh, I'm sorry you sprained your ankle, chicken can. Charles Parker, thank you. But it's not it hasn't even passed Thanksgiving yet. Putting up your Christmas tree. I'm sorry. I'm a person where I believe Christmas does not start until after Thanksgiving. But that's just me. That's just me. I guess part of it, because like Christmas is like a massive season, especially for my family. My parents' anniversary. I'll display a little bit and put a little bit more about me personally out there. My parents' anniversary is December 22nd. My birthday is Christmas Eve. Then there's Christmas. And then my sister's birthday is January 1st. So like there's a lot going on in that time. And it's just a party upon party upon party for me and my family. So I like to keep Christmas at Christmas time. That's where I'm at with it. Cooking, hair care, floors, nails. Fun times. Fun times, Andrea. This is something that I will be covering likely more in the next segment. So stay tuned. They need to release Jan 6 already. So they actually do have more and more coming out. I have plenty of clips to show, and I'm gonna have to narrate them because they're on the radio, and they're like in Congress footage, so I won't necessarily be able to just let it all watch. I'll narrate it a little bit, and I'll cover that in the second hour of the show. Yes, we do need real men. Absolutely. All right. I see my opinion was not necessarily most favorable. I'm curious. Okay. Poll out there, rough poll. Christmas. Start setting up before or after Thanksgiving. What's acceptable? We have a Christmas tree up in the studio, and I gave my manager a hard time about it. I was like, I do not support that. That's not me. You got to wait after Thanksgiving. I get it. I get it for some people. It's not like the hill I'm going to die on. It's not even close to the hill I'm going to die on. Just a hot take. Men don't belong in dresses, and Christmas decorations don't go up until December 1st. Ryan Mack with the hot takes. Love it. Go check out the Ryan Mack show. Thanks for tuning in, Ryan. Before Santa is watching. Absolutely. Absolutely. December 14th is Oklahoma Chicken Cams Tree Day. Laura, absolutely. Okay, so we're more split in the chat than I thought. We are more split. I appreciate those that are coming to my defense. Stuff can go south real quick if I do not maintain. I get it. I get it. But as a reminder, I'm curious what you guys think about these topics that I'm discussing. So don't forget to text or call in at 309. Well, you guys don't need to text. You guys are online. So you can keep going in the comment section. But call in 309-451-9299 if you want to discuss it more and give maybe a take that I didn't hit on, something I forgot. I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. I don't know everything. As I said earlier, I don't know everything. I like to try, but I will never know everything. And so that's why we need more people in on the conversation. All right, we're coming back here live on the radio. Hey, and welcome back to Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I'm your host, Phares. You might know me. You might love me. You might not. I don't really care, but I'm happy you guys are tuning in. That's what I do care about because we have a lot of fun topics we're talking about here today. And if you don't know me at all, I'm a 22-year-old conservative college student from Illinois State University and also host of Speechless outside of just the radio. It's on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, all that fun stuff. I do off-air content too there that you can go check out. And when you go check it out, don't forget to notice how I said when and not if, because it's going to happen. You guys are going to check it out. You're going to see it at some point, I swear. It's good content. I like making it. It's a lot of fun. And I work really hard on it. So when you go check it out, don't forget to like those videos, subscribe to the channel, comment what you think, and share it with your friends. The more people that see it, the more people that get exposed to the news that the lamestream media isn't covering, or definitely not covering it in this way. And so what news am I talking about? Well, today I'm bringing you the news that you might not have heard of. It's International Men's Day. And along with that is the 160th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's speech at Gettysburg, the Gettysburg Address, which is 272 words of absolute gold dedicating that battlefield or that area of the battlefield to those that were buried there. I think it's about 3,500 people. But along with that, it was a larger message, a rallying cry to everybody that America is worth fighting for. And that while the battles had been raging on in the Civil War, we cannot give up because we need to live up to what our founding documents, what the fabric of this nation was meant to be. Live up to the promises of the great American experiment. And we're still fighting for that to this day. And what do we need? We need real strong men to stand up and fight. And that's what I'm calling for today. And I'm trying to answer these questions of what is a man. Like I said in the last segment, the Gettysburg Address is a message that we all need right now. Because while our Civil War isn't necessarily being fought with bayonets and guns and everything like that, we do have a culture war in this country. More, and honestly, I see it as in some ways, not always, but in a lot of it, it's good versus evil, moral versus immoral, God versus secularism. That's what we're fighting against. Or that's the war that's being fought. And I know it's not easy to keep that fight up when we see the current state of this country, who our current leadership is, liars, elites that are finally in some ways being exposed through our social media. And then we also have policies in place that are showing to be a threat to the experiment that I referenced earlier. And while we do have some fighters, we need more. We will win with more fighters, with more men. And so why did I say earlier that the Gettysburg Address is a manly message and a message for men a lot? It's because a man inspires and a man keeps hope even in hopeless times. So what is a man? All of what I've listed in the last several segments. A man has humility. A man is a provider, not only fiscally, but of protection, of love, a provider of being a role model for faith to his family. That's one thing I kind of want to touch on a little bit. I didn't have it written in my notes as much, but now that I think about it more, a man as a father. There's a reason why we say God the Father. God the Father of all. And then we also call the head of a household a father. It's because that father needs to be an example for his family, for his children, of the moral lifestyle written through scripture that they need to follow. Just a quick tangent there. I'm digressing a little bit. But I want to talk about a little bit of where we are now. If you looked at my YouTube channel or even on Facebook, the thumbnail that I had for this video asked how did we get here? How did we get here to where we at one point had Abraham Lincoln level men who recognized, had dignity and respect for this nation, while also calling upon other men to fight for it and fight for what our nation actually stands for, to now having people like Harry Styles who wear a dress and gets applauded by liberals, leftist zealots, progressives as amazing because he's destroying and countering the traditional gender roles. How do we get here? Where are we now? On this International Men's Day, let's look at some statistics. Men have a suicide rate that is 3 times higher than women. 1 in 3 women have been the victim, 1 in 3 men, not women. 1 in 3 men have been the victim of domestic violence. Everybody always, and it's right to talk about women being the victims of domestic violence. But did you know that if you have 3 men in your life, statistically, 1 of them has been a victim of domestic violence? 92% of workplace deaths are men. So of all the people that die on the job, 92% of them are men. Men tend to take jobs that are much more dangerous, like different jobs in the trades, climbing tall buildings, skyscrapers, antennas, things like that to keep this radio station afloat. 92% of workplace deaths are men. Men are 8 times more likely to be incarcerated than women. Why do we have all this? I could go on with more and more instances in which men don't have it as good as everybody says. People always say, well, there's male privilege. There's male privilege. You're privileged because you're a male. Really? No, look, yes, I'm sure there are privileges to each gender. I mean, there's fraternities you could join as a man. There's sororities you can join as a woman. There are privileges to the genders, but it doesn't make it so that there aren't issues that men deal with that often go unrecognized. Why are these issues, the ones that I listed and more, why are they prevalent? Because we are lacking manliness, plain and simple. And manliness is not only lacking, it is shamed. Feminist movements have pushed for a false idea that women can not only do everything a man can do, but also that genders are interchangeable and there's no real need for a man. If you look on social media now, women are praised when they say, I'm a boss AB. They do the little snaps and everything too. If you're watching me on YouTube and stuff, you can see I'm doing the little snaps. That's what they do. I'm a boss AB. Yeah, I have to say AB. I'm using those terms because I can't say them on the radio. But you know what? I'm a boss but woman, essentially, is what I'm saying. And people are praised for that. I don't need no man. No, men and women do need each other. We're complementary. Biologically, we are complementary. Not only in the physical, but also mentally and emotionally. It's not sexist to point out the true statements that men tend to be, not always, but tend to be more logical in their thinking and use less emotion, while women tend to be more emotional, caring, and loving. And there's strengths to both of that. Men and women do objectively need each other. But the left will tell you that genders don't actually exist. And that's causing young men, because they're being shamed and told that they don't need their manliness, that if anything, they're better playing with dolls and wearing dresses. And I'm not shaming if a young boy wants to play with a doll. I had 2 older sisters. I played with Polly Pockets growing up. I am not ashamed of that by any means. I formed a bond with my sisters, and I love my sisters. So I'm not shaming that. But to say that you need to destroy gender to progress society is causing these social ills. But it's not all their fault, all the leftists and progressive faults. We have also failed. You and I. We failed to hold bad men accountable, and in some cases encourage bad behavior. An example of this is fatherlessness. I talked about being a father and the important role of a father a little bit earlier. Fatherlessness is encouraged by the state, by our government, when single-parent households are given more in social services than dual. We are not encouraging people. And on a logical level, it makes sense. Yes, a single parent probably needs more because there's only one person to provide an income and everything like that. But in some way, we need to find a way to encourage dual parent households. So then it's not as easy for a woman to say, get out of here, I don't need you. Or a man to say, oh man, take care of it on your own, I'm leaving. Fatherless children have higher rates of criminal behavior, drug and alcohol abuse, poverty, teen pregnancy, obesity, and more. We need to bring back manliness. Reject modernity. This is what I've been saying, guys. Reject modernity. Embrace traditionalism. Men should be in the household. I think, I don't remember all the statistics, but this is something Ben Shapiro used to say a lot, is that the ways to be successful in America that puts you statistically higher chances of being even better than where your parents were at, one of the biggest ones was get married before you have children. We're not seeing that. We have people, especially with the increased rise and encouragement for both young men and young women to be sexually promiscuous. That's not happening. There's so many ways in which we could encourage men to be better. But it starts with people saying anything. Men are struggling. And what I can tell you is something that's not working is telling them that they're bad because they are men. Because they're giving into some of their natural urges to be a protector, to be chivalrous. And we're going to talk about some of those ways that people are shaming men for doing some of those things. But we're also going to try to take a critical look at it in terms of these things called icks, which I've heard about. What is an ick? Talk a little bit about dating and relationships. We're also going to cover the January 6th tapes and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot I still got to cover here. I don't even know if I'm going to have time for all of it. I sure hope I will, because I want to make sure that we talk about all of it. But I'll be right back here, guys. Don't forget to stay tuned for more Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond. Okie dokie. Let's see what we got going on in the comments section here, everybody. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate it. And I'm not perfect. I'll admit it. I fail. But it's a true man that can admit that. Andrea doesn't even do a tree anymore for Christmas. Everybody, you can go check out the Ryan Mack Show. I can't copy and paste it right here, Ryan, but I will at some point make sure I let everybody know on my channel. At least right now, everybody, you can go check out the Ryan Mack Show. Has some really good interviews and a lot of good content. I'd like to say it's because I've helped coach him a little bit in some areas, but it's also because he has his own great personality too. So I love you, Ryan. Definitely go check out the Ryan Mack Show, everybody. We need men and women who are willing to do the right things instead of politically correct things. Absolutely. And that's why I will be out here saying, I'll get people that'll tell me I'm a sexist for saying that women tend to be more emotional, caring, loving. But then they'll take that out of context, and they'll forget the fact that I say there is strength to that. And not every woman is like that, but by and large. And I talk about this in a lot of different topics. Gender especially is another one. Okay, when I say that, I mean that the majority of women tend to be more emotional, loving, caring than men. That doesn't mean there aren't exceptions to the rule. Much as in biology, we teach that we have 10 fingers and 10 toes. Now, you could have somebody who was born with 9 fingers or 8. That doesn't mean that we're not going to recognize the by and large imperative that exists. So, absolutely. Starting from the beginning, thank you, License. You'll eventually see this when you catch up, but thank you. As a traditionalist, Christmas season as well as decorations go up the weekend, a couple of days after Thanksgiving Day. Great take. Very much in agreement. I guess it's Oklahoma Chicken Cam with the great commentary. I love it. I guess it's a privilege to be able to write my name in the snow easier. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Laura says, I was a tomboy, only had boys to play with, was poor growing up. We played in the dirt. Our swimming pool was a mud puddle in the street. If I was in today's time, I would be too scared to think what they would do to me. I see. Absolutely. And again, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not a problem. Like, you can defy gender roles in some way. Your kid can play with a doll, whatever. But when we have a society that says in some way either they have to, or if you do, you might actually be a woman. Look, I put on my mom's heels growing up. I played dress up. Like, I'll admit to all this. I'm not ashamed of it. You want to know why? Because I'm comfortable enough in who I am, and I know who I am. And I was a kid. I was a child, a young child. Ryan Mack says, men can't be women. Women can't be men can't get pregnant or be pregnant. Gay marriages are not the norm. It's okay to be married first and then have children. You should be married first before you have children. If you are having children before marriage, look, I will always say choose life. I absolutely believe it. And it's going to be harder for you to in life, period. As somebody who, I mean, my aunt and uncles that did they got pregnant before they were married. They got married during the pregnancy, but like still thank you, Oklahoma Chicken Camp, for putting in the YouTube for me. I appreciate it. But they all got married, but like it wasn't easy for them even when they got pregnant like very young. My uncle, who has since passed, love him to death, Uncle Ron. Always going to shout him out. One of my biggest supporters in my life ever. He got my aunt pregnant when they were like 18, 19. And then they chose life. It wasn't really an option because we're Irish Catholic, but they chose life. And yeah, it was not easy for them. They relied on family heavily, but they still got through it. But that's why I still tell people, like, you could still get through anything and choose life. It's going to be harder, but that's why it's best before you get into that situation to think about people are more successful when they wait till after marriage to have children. All right, I got to come back here for my short-ish segment. Ain't nothing gonna break my stride. You guys know what that means. When that song comes on at the end of the first hour, it means it's my more motivational segment. And I feel like a lot of what I've talked about today has been more motivational. I've been talking about how young men, there's a crisis among young men. It is International Men's Day today. Thank a man in your life, everybody. Thank a man in your life, whether that's your dad, your husband, your boyfriend, girlfriend, grandfather, or not girlfriend, boyfriend. Sorry, I just get rambling sometimes. Your dad, your husband, your boyfriend, your grandfather, your uncle, anybody. Thank a man in your life, because I can tell you there's a time in which they've struggled with something. They've struggled with their own manliness, with understanding who they are and their purpose as a man. And I guarantee you, men oftentimes don't get, and this is my opinion, my experience as a young man. I feel like I have a certain level of expertise on it. Men don't necessarily get the same level of support that a lot of women do in certain areas of their life, many areas of their life. And we don't beg for it. We don't ask for it. Like, that's kind of part of being a man, is being able to reconcile with that. But it doesn't mean it doesn't feel good when somebody does. And an example of this is if you look at social media, and you look at a woman's Instagram post, she could be, this is just me being honest, she could be like the most god ugly woman. She could let herself go very, very much. But she could post a selfie in which she's showing way too much skin and it's just a bad angle. And you will still have women in those comment sections, other women, that will say, "Slay queen, you're so beautiful. It's amazing. You're amazing." You have a guy that like posts a selfie, either an empty comment section. You might have a person or two that's supportive, or you could even have people in there that are like, "Why did you post this? You're a weirdo." Seriously. And that's just one example. That's just an example from the social media digital age. There are other men that have definitely done things, made sacrifices for their families, for their wives, for their daughters, for their sons, that have gone relatively unnoticed. There are men that we have making sacrifices for this country right now that are going unnoticed. And instead, we have politicians that want to push more and more people to make those sacrifices. But I digress a little bit. My point of what I'm saying is that we have not, and I've said it for the majority of the show, we have a crisis of masculinity in this country. But for those in your life that have displayed masculinity, for those of your life that you can tell, or might not even be able to tell, that are struggling in some way, Offer them a hand. Offer them a compliment. Offer them a thank you for what they have done in their role as a man in your life. We need to encourage manly behavior. We need to encourage positive male role models. I love my dad. I have a lot I could say about my dad, and he was definitely a role model in many ways for me. But like, I also have David Paul Blumenschein, who's a host on on Cities 92.9, goes on right before me. In my time living in Bloomington Normal and not up with my parents, David has been an incredible mentor to me, and I don't know if he's listening right now. He's been an incredible mentor to me, not only in the radio sense and content sense and everything like that, but also just myself as a member of my faith and understanding who God is and my role as a man in my community of faith. And so thank you, David. If you're listening right now, thank you, David, for that. For any other people out there, once again, find your role models and talk to them. And I have a lot more I want to cover on my show today. I only have a few more minutes left in this segment, but that's my main motivation for you guys. And for any man who's looking for guidance, find somebody that you think is doing it right and do what they do. And again, don't make it an Andrew Tate. Find somebody definitely in faith. They're likely doing it right and do what they do. And that's an advice for pretty much anything as well. If there's something you don't know how to do, when I came into streaming, YouTube, Facebook, everything like that, I had no idea what I was doing. Zero, zilch. What did I do? If you look at my channel on YouTube and compare it to Ben Shapiro's or Matt Walsh's, mine looks like, in terms of graphics and everything like that, it looks like a lower budget version of theirs. Why? Because I don't have the budget of them. But I'm doing what people who came before me did in the best way. And that's why I say, I've been saying it all my whole show, reject modernity and embrace traditionalism. Because those who did it before us know a thing or two because they've seen a thing or two. So those that are coming out and preaching these wild and wacky ideas, and that's an understatement, be skeptical. Be reasonably skeptical of what they have to tell you. Seriously, be reasonably skeptical of what they have to tell you. I'm coming to the end of this segment, and I hope you guys got something out of that. I always try to be a little bit motivational and try to give some level of advice and from my youthful wisdom that I claim to have. But I got more coming up here, everybody. What is an ick? What is an ick? Young people have this saying, and it's very interesting to me. And I'm trying to be in touch with the young people. So, as I am one myself. So we're going to cover that. Also, the January 6th tapes were released. Let's look at them critically and see what's been trending on social media about them. And how does it defy the narrative the left has said? Well, we're going to cover all that soon here and more in the next hour of Speechless. Thank you so much. We'll be right back in the next hour. Thank you guys for tuning in. Once again, I appreciate you sticking with me. It's always hard, my short segments like that, because it's hard timing everything with the radio. Because I have my message I want to say, and sometimes I get it out, and then I don't have enough time to get into my next segment and my next messages. And so I kind of have to fly by the seat of my pants a little bit. But everything I say I still mean. I'm not making anything up. It's just a timing thing. How's everyone doing out there? We got a short break here before I get back on the radio. It's one of my longer breaks, actually, but still relatively short. I'll do this. I'll have to go back through for some of them, but I will do this in the best way that I can for some of my motivational stuff. Thank you, Charles. I work really hard on, and that's like, again, probably my biggest advice for anybody is if there's anything you want to do, like, so nobody in my family has ever gone to law school. It's my plan to next year go to law school. When it comes to the application process, the LSAT, studying for everything like that, I was had an open ocean in front of me. I had an open ocean and I had no idea which direction to go to get from point A to point B. And so what I did was I looked at and I talked to people, I met people, I've found resources to see how people have done it before me, successful people. And then I follow their footsteps. Reject modernity, embrace traditionalism. I don't know if I can coin that term or trademark it, but I might make a t-shirt out of it. I'm working on merch. But speaking of merch, if you guys like shirts like this, cancel culture, I do have a partnership with a very conservative brand. Gotta love them. I've talked about it on the show before. UnitedMerch.com. Use code Speechless at checkout for 20% off of your purchase. And that would also be in a way supporting the show. So if you want a shirt like this, cancel culture, or there's other ones, Anti-Socialism Social Club is another. There's other patriotic ones. Check those out. UnitedMerch.com. Use code Speechless at checkout for 20%. It's great stuff. I got to take a quick break here, guys. Been standing for 2 hours and I've been drinking a lot of water. So you do the math. I will be right back, hopefully in less than 2 minutes. So stick with me, everybody, because we still have more we're going to cover here on Speechless. Thank you guys so much. Be right back. And I'm back. Coming in hot, too, with the audio. Sorry if I scared you. I almost did, too. Demon Goral, who isn't real. You just designed a new shirt? Andrea, I would be honored if you would design me a shirt that advertised my show or anything I've said that you liked, anything like that. I'd be honored if you would like to. You know my email. You've used it before. So I'd be honored. I'd also be honored if you called in today. I always like talking to you. I like talking to anybody. So that's why I encourage you guys all to call in at 309-451-9299. 309-451-9299. That's that number. Let's see what else we got going on here. The Steelers loss. That's unfortunate. We got next exit in East Tennessee. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you. Honestly, it's cloudy now, but it was sunny and kind of warm here for most of the day in central Illinois. Probably high 50s, low 60s. I really liked it. I've been enjoying it. But I don't know if that's considered chilly to anybody who's a little bit further south than us. To me, that's short and t-shirt weather, but we're going to be coming back here very, very soon. A lot of different topics. Manliness is a big thing. Manliness is a big thing we're talking about, but we're kind of transitioning a little bit for the second hour. Hey, Bloomington Normal, and welcome back to Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond. Why do I say beyond? I say beyond because we are on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Rumble as well. And so you might be driving in your car right now, and that's fine. And so you're listening on the radio. And I don't want to encourage you to have any kind of a distracted driving thing. Seriously, I don't. But when you get home or wherever you're going, if you have time and you want to keep tuning into this show and even see me live in studio, you can on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Rumble. Not Rumble today live, but you will be up later on the Rumble channel. But you can catch me live right now on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Go check that out. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment what you think. I always want to see what you guys think about any of these things. That's why I always encourage you also to text or call in at 309 451 9299. But we are back here, and this is Speechless. I'm your host, Kev Phares, 22-year-old conservative college student from Illinois State University. And I've had a lot of things I've been covering today. Manliness. It is International Men's Day today. There's a lot of things that men go through that women don't even realize, or a lot the society doesn't even recognize. Because apparently, as we're told, there is no such thing as gender. Men don't actually exist. And when they do exist, they're toxic. They're toxic. Their behavior is always toxic. Yeah. And so that's why men experience a much higher rate of suicide than women do. It's the honest facts. It's the honest truth. And so I've been talking a lot about that. And so going on from that, I'm going to cover some of the January 6th tapes, debunking some myths, talking about how we've been lied to by our politicians, all that stuff. That's going to come in the second half of the second hour that we're currently in. But I want to talk about this thing that I think is kind of interesting. It's this thing called the ick. The ick. This talks about like dating and relationships and everything like that. The ick. The ick is so I actually was trying to pull up my article for it right here. And apparently I was trying to pull it up on Cosmopolitan, because we have issues in our studio in which Cosmopolitan is actually a blocked website. And so I'm going to have to pull it up at some point later because it's got this article is fascinating, but I'm going to just cover the general idea of it using my quick wit that I try to do. What is the ick, everybody? What is the ick? The ick is something that's heavily pushed by young women right now. It's a dating term that means you get a sudden cringe feeling when you have a romantic contact with somebody and become almost immediately put off by them. Almost immediately is what it says. And there's a lot of different things that are within an ick. Like there's entire places, there's an entire thing called ick-talk. So it's on TikTok. And you can find people that talk about their icks. So here's one. And the question I'm with this, why am I talking about this? Well, because it has to do with dating, relationships, and especially the feelings of young men on this International Men's Day. How can men live up to the standards that women set upon them? Are they too high? Are they too high? And so I have like different videos, TikToks, things like that I want to share. I'm going to screen share on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to show you guys and have you listen to just what some people call icks. And some of them I think could be considered reasonable. Others are not. We're going to start with this young lady and what she has to say her ick is. She was asked on the street what her ick is. Take a look and a listen.
What's your biggest ick in a guy?
Like when they... No, okay.
Say it. Say it.
No.
Run it.
That was so mean. I was going to say if they're like really nice, it's such an ick.
Be asshole.
Yeah. So he even says in there, I just dumped it, so I don't think it'll air on the radio. But you probably heard her say being too nice if a guy's too nice, that's a thing. That's an ick. That'll immediately turn off a woman. Some women, not all women. Some women will be immediately turned off of a guy because he's quote unquote too nice. Now, what does that even mean? Right? If a guy is too nice. So if a guy is chivalrous, how do you think that a young man is going to react to that? Or what is a woman really looking for? What is a woman looking for if she doesn't want a guy that's nice or too nice? What qualifies too nice? These are questions that a young man would have hearing that. It's a questions I would consider myself a young man, and they're questions a young man like me is having currently. There's other ones as well, other icks that people are bringing up. It goes across so many levels. There's one here that I was talking with a young woman just recently, and she told me a guy who pushes a shopping cart. If she sees a guy pushing a shopping cart, that would be problematic, that she could be immediately turned off by that guy. Well, here was my response to her. I asked, because I go, well, I asked first, why is that an ick? And she was like, it's just like, it's weird to me. Like, that's something that the woman would do, is you push a shopping cart. And I was like, okay, I can actually kind of respect that. But from a man's perspective, let's say I was going out with somebody I'd been dating for quite a while. And to be courteous, we went grocery shopping together. Maybe we lived together at this point. We might have even been engaged, whatever. To be courteous to her, I figured I would push the shopping cart, because that would be an undue burden that I didn't want her to have to take on. Maybe we're getting a lot of stuff, and I was like, I'll push the shopping cart. I'll grab it for you. One last thing you have to think about. An act of service, one might say. But that would immediately, me trying to do that for you, would give you the ick, I asked. And then she was like, well, okay, I could kind of understand that. And that's where we get into the idea of intent. What are people's intentions? What are people's intentions? Because somebody could do something that's an ick, again, something that would immediately turn you off from wanting to date them or be romantically involved with them, but they could do it with an intention that actually might be sweet or caring or loving. So there's that one. But there's other ones too that people have. And some of them, you might hear that I'm playing it on air right now. I'm going to pull it up to make sure everybody can see it online. I have more icks. Some of these might be reasonable. Some might be unreasonable. And I just want to go through them because I think they're fascinating to hear what young people consider a turnoff in dating and how this could actually hurt the entire idea of a relationship. And I have a full idea and theory about icks that I'm going to share once we cover just some more of these. Let's take a look and listen to these.
Biggest icks in a guy.
Mommy's boy.
Mommy's boy.
Can't do it.
Doesn't that mean he knows how to treat a woman though?
No, you would think, but they don't.
When they like can't handle their alcohol, like when
Oh
they
my
black
God,
out,
That's
for girls.
It's for girls.
So you guys tell me you guys don't like the guy at the party that's getting naked and just running everywhere?
No.
I mean,
So then she
I
starts
think he would be a fun
backtracking a
guy.
bit.
Like that would be so.
I
fun.
think he might be a fun guy. Also, can I just point out how these women, like their voices are just like incredibly annoying, in my personal opinion. Like, oh my God, I just don't want a guy who can't handle his liquor. First off, that's actually a reasonable one in my opinion. A guy that consistently drinks way too much and cannot handle it. That's a reasonable, and a guy that takes his clothes off and gets naked at a party, that would be more of a reasonable ick to me. But that girl just backtracked on it. The first one, mommy's boy. Okay, if you're older, and this is where we get into the complexity of it, right? I have a very good relationship with my mom. I love my mom. I've talked about it on the show before. She's a hero to me. I have a great level of respect and admiration for my mother. Some people might claim that I'm a mommy's boy because of that. I would unashamedly say, sure, call me a mama's boy, because I love my mom. And she's great. But is that what she means? Or does she mean like an older individual that like somebody my age cuddling with their mom still? Because that would be weird and that would be an ick. What do people mean? Why can we not define our terms? Why can we not define our terms? What is genuinely the ick within all of this? I have a few more when it comes to being reasonable or not. Again, I believe that there are reasonable icks that people can have, like drinking too much. That makes sense. I can understand that. Share this tab. Okay, so I'm sharing this one. Look and listen to a few more that we have here.
Hey, what's your biggest ick?
When a boy has bad breath, you obviously knew we were going to hang out.
Hey, what's your biggest ick?
When
See, that one's reasonable. So there's another one here that's about to play, and I want to
man
cover
rides a
this one.
bicycle, it's not all right.
Sorry, I'm messing up. I
Weird.
produce my own show. It's not always easy. But bad breath. You don't take care of yourself. I can understand that one. That's reasonable. Now listen to this one.
You knew we were going to hang out.
Hey, what's your biggest ick?
When a man rides a bicycle, it's not all right. You look weird.
Hey, what's your biggest ick?
When a man rides a bicycle, that's an ick. to young women. This is all the reason I'm doing this. You guys might be wondering, why are you doing this, Kev? Why are you going through all these different people? Because I'm trying to understand. I grew up with a mom and 2 sisters, right? I grew up with a mom and 2 sisters. You would think I would be better posed to understand how women think, what women want, and what they look for, especially in terms of a dating romantic sense. But when I hear that someone's biggest ick, their turnoff from a man is them riding a bicycle, a man riding a bicycle, that's an ick. I am 100% back to the drawing board. I have no idea. I don't understand. I know women that cannot ride a bicycle. Seriously, I know there at least one woman that I know cannot ride a bicycle. And so, my point, why is it an ick that a man rides a bicycle? What if he's trying to get fit? What if it's mode of transportation? He's a younger guy. He's paying for college, something like that. And so he has to ride a bike to and from work. Or he's like a little environmentally conscious, which I would consider kind of a liberal, loony thing. But like, okay, maybe. But that's an ick. There's a few more here. Let's take a look and a listen. And then I'm going to get into the overall, my idea about icks.
When some guy tries to put his hand in my back pocket, I can't handle it.
Preference.
I'm like,
I can understand that one.
But I'm like, I'm an independent woman.
Hey, what's your biggest ick?
Guys planning a sleepover. It's just weird. Like, you shouldn't be having a sleepover with your guy friend. Like, that's just something a girl only should do. Like, if it happens, it happens. Like, not saying you can't have a sleepover, just planning it is weird.
Yeah.
Okay, these are really weird things that they think about. A guy planning to have a sleepover. And the list goes on. Across social media, there are lists and lists and lists of people, of people's icks. In that Cosmopolitan article that I was referencing earlier, which unfortunately I was unable to pull up, maybe I can get it pulled up during the break, that we're coming up against, there was at least one that I read that said she had a problem. She had been dating a guy, had gone on multiple dates with him, 4 or 5, and she had claimed in the article that they had even had sexual relations. But as they went out to some dinner, and the way that he ate a certain food completely turned her off, and she broke up with him. She ended it because of the way that he ate a certain food. Now, I believe there's 2 sides to these icks that I've been discussing. Icks, icky, whatever. There's 2 sides of it. There's a reasonable level of preference. Because if I were to say icks that I had, quote unquote, which I would just describe as preferences in who I look for in a partner, is I don't want somebody who's absurdly overweight or somebody that is unnecessarily untidy all the time. Somebody that doesn't know how to dress or act appropriately in public. Because all of these are reflections of who you are and the standards you hold yourself to. If you don't care about your weight, then you obviously, that's not something that's important to you. You don't care about the image that you put out to other people. I want somebody who does. If you are untidy, unclean, you don't shower, you don't shave, you don't maybe put on some makeup when you're going to something nicer or even just going out and you're going to be seen in public. You don't care about the image that you give off to other people. Those would be reasonable icks, in my opinion. And same thing if a woman had, like, if you don't brush your teeth, that was reasonable. But then you have other ones where it's if he rides a bicycle, if he eats food a certain way, if he pushes a shopping cart. Where it comes to me and I'm just like, well, there could be other reasonings behind this. And so I believe, this is my opinion, and you can text or call in at 309-451-9299 to tell me whether or not I'm wrong, because I am an unmarried man and not in a relationship currently either. But I believe that the person that you are meant to be with is the person where they could do something that is a minor ick for you. It doesn't violate one of those major preferences of like the ones that I listed. A minor ick. Maybe they say a word that you don't like. They eat something weird, something little like that. The person you're meant to be with is the person that could do some of those things on occasion, not all the time, but on occasion, and you're still willing to put up with it. Because from what I understand in marriage, it's a person, you're going to fart around them. You're going to burp, you're going to be gross, you're going to have a baby with each other. Like you're going to have a lot of instances in which there are things that are embarrassing, off-putting issues. You're going to fight. You're going to have problems, you're going to see every side of that person. There's going to be a point in which you find something in the person that you are meant to be with that you might not like the best. That's life. For anybody who is out there saying, I'm going to find the absolute perfect man, the Prince Charming, the Hallmark Christmas movie man, or even woman, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And the unrealistic expectations that we put, especially on men in dating culture, that you have to be a certain height, you have to make up to a certain amount of money at all times in your life, you have to be able to meet all these absurd expectations, are pushing more and more men to live in this disgruntled and unhappy sentiment that I've been talking about the whole show. What do you guys think? Again, don't forget, you can text or call in at 309-451-9299. I want to know what you guys have to say about any and all of these things. Up next, we're going to talk more about I got a short story and then the January 6th tapes, but I also seem to be having a caller, so I'm going to take them. But we'll be right back with them on Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond. Okay, guys, I'm going to screen this call real quick, so give me a sec. That's Andrea, frequent flyer. She's coming on. Let's see what you guys had to say. We want to know your ex. I listed some of them. Armpit hair and living life by their astrological sign. Oh, yeah. Anybody who is like super into star signs, that's a red flag. Major. I think she might mean if the guy is a pushover, it's a turnoff. Okay. I could see it. I think I started 15 minutes behind. Now I'm 45 minutes behind. That's my ick. Annoying, nasally voice. By the time Xmas rolls around, I'm done with Xmas. Mommy's boy is when a man constantly chooses the mom over the girlfriend. Okay. Absolutely understand that one. That one makes sense. I take it she won't be dating anyone who does triathlons. That's a good one. Hey, man, not everyone or even streets. Yeah, that's true. 309-451-9299 is that number. And text or call in. 309-451-9299. And hey, I do want to get to some of the January 6th stuff, but if I have to shorten it, I can if we got a lot of callers or something that want to call in. So, next exit, 56 years old, single, and trying to date for a while. With that said, this is No Shave November. So this is the first year in 56 years to grow my beard during November and getting more women talking to me. Hey, good for you, man. Congratulations. Congratulations. Yes, repeat offender, Andrea. Love that. But there's the number on screen. I'll keep it on screen until the next segment, which will be like 30 seconds. Okay, let's come back here. I'm going to thrive, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Speechless. I'm your host, Phares, 22-year-old conservative college student from Illinois State University, soon to be graduate. Very excited for that. But I got a lot of different things I am covering here today on Speechless, and I was going to change subjects a little bit, but I also encourage everybody to text or call in. And I love talking about, or I find it very enlightening to talk about the issues men face in dating, relationships, as it relates to women, but also just as men in general, we have a crisis of masculinity, and it's not toxic that we are facing in this world. And so that's what I seek to expose and uncover. And we have a repeat offender, a constant caller that loves to, and I love when she calls in. My good friend, Andrea, how's it going? You're on the line.
Hey, Kev, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Yourself?
I'm doing just great.
So what are you thinking about everything that I've been talking about here? The ick, young men standing up and fighting, having masculinity back in our society. What are your thoughts?
Well, first and foremost, these girls with the ick, you
Yep.
better be perfect. That's what I'm going to say. You better be perfect.
Well, I like to consider
the-
myself perfect, so.
Well, we all know that you're perfect. Kev.
Oh, I'm
That's
kidding,
good for that.
But yes, yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. You got to be perfect to some of these people.
And the other thing that I've learned as an older woman is everything that my boyfriend does for me, I think it's great. If he changes a light bulb, that's fantastic. If he takes the garbage out, that's amazing. You know why? Because not everybody loves in the same exact way. So every little thing that he does when he takes my car to the car wash, that is just him showing me how much he cares. And everybody misses that. But the reason why these girls are the way that they are, first and foremost, it's of no benefit to men in the West to be in any type of relationship until women change. So my advice to men is,
Oh, I'm so sorry, Andrea. I accidentally just took you off the line. I want to know your advice to men. I was trying to put on hold a new caller. That's my bad. The phone lines are not my expertise. I try my best. Andrea, please call back. I will get you on ASAP. As soon as you do, I do have my other caller on the line, on hold on the line, and I will get to them. But I want to know what Andrea has to say. I'm very sorry that I accidentally hung up on you. I do my best here. This is what happens when you produce your own show, folks. This is what happens. Andrea, I am waiting for your call. I am hoping it is about to come right through the phone lines because I'm here for it. I know I have another caller on the line. I will get to you in the next segment. But Andrea has a wonderful point when it comes to that women are doing themselves and the men a disservice. Men are not perfect by any means at all. And so we need, and neither are women. No one's perfect. Even when I make my joke that I am, which I know I'm not. I keep checking the phone line back there if you're watching. That was my issue. Even though I might say that I am jokingly, I'm not. I am an imperfect human. We are all imperfect humans. Absolutely. We are all 100%. We are all imperfect. Sorry, I'm stuttering. I know that I just messed up a little bit by hanging up on Andrea. Andrea, I want to hear from you. Call back and I'll bring you on in the next segment. I am running to the end of my time in this one, but please, please, please call back. I am so sorry I did that. I got to screen this next call too. Just the technical difficulties we get here at Cities 92.9. But I am honored to always have the opportunity to talk to you guys. And thank you so much. Anybody can text or call in at 309-451-9299. And I will be better. I swear I will be better. I'm always learning. That's what happens. You got to always, lifelong learner, everybody. Well, but we will be right back here with more Speechless. Thank you so much for tuning in with more conversation. God bless you. God bless America. Thank you for tuning in. Okay. I'm sorry, Andrea. I can't say how sorry I am. Dude's hanging up on chicks. I want you to call back, though. If you are still watching, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I got to screen this call now, though. Okay, I have Andrea. I have another caller. We are good. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I can't voice how sorry I am enough. Seriously. Because I love when I get callers and I love being able to talk to so many people in amazing ways about so many different issues. So, but Amanda's icks, I want to know, you guys, I love that you guys started posting your own icks because I'm curious now. Man buns and dudes wearing makeup and dresses. See, again, I feel like that's just a standard, like a low level. Man buns is more of an ick, but to me, there's a difference. It's like standards, which would be like, yeah, I'm not going to date a tranny. Or then you have an ick, which is like, yeah, I don't really like a guy with a man bun. Because like that's something that he could change. And I mean, I guess the tranny one is kind of also, but you know what I mean? This is exactly, and that's kind of what I said when it came to earlier. I talked about how we have a lacking of humility among, and humility, while everybody should have it, is definitely more of a manly, more of a thing that is an embodiment of manliness. And we live in a very selfish and self-absorbed society, in a prideful society. Thank God, Andrea. Andrea is letting everybody know that watches that she in some way forgives me. But she'll be back in the next segment. It's all about compromise and communication. One mess up and you're gone. Yeah, I know. That's the terrifying thing is like in my conversations about the ick, it's like a minefield for a man to walk because I feel like men are much more like, oh, like our icks would be more of those broader things. Like it's not like a woman riding a bike or a woman eating something in kind of a weird way is not necessarily going to be what it is. Are going to be like the ick for us. Being too nice isn't usually, I mean, maybe very specifically for a very specific person. But it's for men, I feel like the ick, the reason why young women, it's become much more of a hold is because they've been sold this lie that they're going to get a Prince Charming or that they're going to get the perfect man. There's never going to be any problems, any fights, any little things that they're going to get. Like I said, the Hallmark movie or like the old Matthew McConaughey rom-com kind of guy. But it's just not, it's a lie. It doesn't actually happen. I want to remind everybody, wherever you're watching from, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you're not watching on YouTube, check out my YouTube channel. It's right up there. You can look at Speechless with Kev or at Speechless Kev, Speechless with Kev Phares, anything like that. Just Google it. You'll find it. And share it with your friends, comment, all that fun stuff. We will be back here in just about a minute. And I got 2 callers. They're probably going to take up a lot of this segment. But I will make sure I talk a little bit about January 6th, if not a little bit in this segment, then also in the last segment, because I do have some more stuff to share about that or some things to talk about. Just about 30 seconds before we come back on. And I know I got Andrea waiting there. I got another caller, an amazing caller that I will be talking with as well. Two, one. Let's get back here. Hey, Bloomington Normal. Welcome back to Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, all that fun stuff. I'm your host, Kev Phares, 22-year-old conservative college student out of Central Illinois, out of Illinois State University, actually. And I'm so happy to be talking with you guys. If you guys stuck with me from the past segment, I know I had some technical difficulties, and the technical difficulty being the phone line and me accidentally hanging up on our caller. which I will totally admit, my mistake. But I do have her back on the line right here, right now. Andrea, you were just about to tell us your advice for young men in this poor dating culture, in the culture that feminizes them, tells them that masculinity is toxic. What is your advice?
My advice to young men and men in general is stop tolerating it. Stop tolerating it. When women start the shenanigans, right? Stop tolerating it. Just stop tolerating it. If you think that you want to get married, all right, you better make sure you get with a lawyer, you get a prenup.
I'm in
right?
100% agreement with that. 100% agreement.
At this particular day and age, the reason why this country is so insane is because you're living in a matriarchy. You're living in a women-centric society, and it's emotional. It's everything about feelings and this, and I feel. You're living in a matriarchy. That's why it's so insane in this country.
Mm-hmm.
And we need strong men. We need strong men to step up. And the only real way is for men to stop tolerating women's bad behavior. You have to stop tolerating it. If you're out to dinner and you know you only have X amount of money to spend on dinner and she starts running up the bill, leave. Just get up and leave and stick her with a check. And then don't call her again. And it sounds so harsh. But these are the things that you have to do. If you want quality women and women who are not so self-centered, like this is the result of everybody calling their daughter princess and you're so special and you're a goddess. Once you start hearing some women say, I'm a goddess, run, just run.
I know, and it
Just
tends
leave.
to be that the women that say that, like I feel like one person that gets told that sometimes by zealots would be like Lizzo, like women that appear similar to Lizzo, if you know who I'm talking about.
Well, yeah.
Those people get framed as goddesses, and like, look, I'm no expert on Greek mythology, but when I've thought of a goddess, Lizzo is not exactly the first thing that comes to my head.
You know what, the actual embodiment of a goddess is?
What is it?
Is that you're a complete woman before the man even steps into the picture. That's the true definition of a goddess.
Absolutely.
If you're whole as a woman, then you can benefit. It's a partnership. And where men are weak, women are strong. Where women are weak, men are strong. That's the whole point of it.
Absolutely. It's a compliment. Men and women are meant to complement each other.
Exactly. And it should not be a battle. But now I'm going to lead you right down the primrose path, Kev. If you had a woman, think about this for a second. Yep. If you had a woman who was not respecting your boundaries, financially abusing you, telling you you're garbage, telling you you're trash, but you're perfectly fine to suit their needs, wouldn't you dump that woman?
Absolutely.
And that's the relationship America's in with the federal government.
Okay, Andrea. Great argument for your anarchism. I get it.
All right, darling.
Have a
good call.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you, Andrea. So that was Andrea, frequent flyer. Great call. And thank you so much for calling in, Andrea. I have another caller on the line as well. I hope she's still there. Are you still there?
I am still here.
Awesome. So who am I speaking with?
I am a college student that is also from Illinois. And I actually wanted to kind of explain why women are doing this.
Okay. I'd love to hear
a little bit. I'm going to play devil's advocate, kind of.
Oh, well, the devil doesn't really need an advocate, but let's hear it.
So, also, I know you have other stuff to do, so I'm going to keep it very short.
Okay.
But the ick was coined back in 2017 from a British reality TV show.
That sounds
And
even
the whole
worse.
point of it-
That sounds like 1776 is necessary again then. If we're taking
Exactly.
things from the Brits. All right, keep going.
Yes. So it was started as a tool to help you get over being dumped. So if a guy dumped you, you were to think about things that would make him really unattractive. And you had to think about him doing those things. And that is how it would help you get over him. Now, that was the way that was the definition of the term up until the woke media found it on TikTok and started creating these videos. The feminist movement picked it up, and that's when it turned into this whole hatred of men. But it has not always been like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's become perverted. It started off as a coping mechanism and now is basically just a way to rationalize irrational behavior.
Yes. So I can remember back to my freshman year in college, I would go hang out with girls who were in sororities, and I would hear them use the term like having an ick to get over the guy that had just like dumped them or left them at a party. And since probably 2020, that is when I have seen this shift on social media of people taking it to the feminist level.
I understand that.
Woke agenda level.
I do want to ask, though, on this topic is the fact that so looking for an issue with the guy. Now, I'm not saying that the guy is always in the right, but couldn't you see the idea that even from its origin as being a way to get over somebody could also be in a way avoiding accountability? Like them looking for an ick in the other dude saying that it's their fault. It's in some way always their fault. Couldn't that be negating the idea that, hey, maybe you did something wrong? Not you personally, but the people that are using it.
It could be. And I think the point I'm trying to make with it more is it wasn't necessarily why the relationship ended. It's just they got dumped and now they're trying to get over it. Let's come up with something really stupid, like picturing them riding a bike.
Yeah.
And maybe that will help us to get over it.
Maybe.
So some of these icks, I can't imagine being unattracted to somebody using a shopping cart, but whatever.
I know. People are crazy. There are some crazy ones out there, and that's why I think it's like there's different levels to an ick. There's a preference versus like being nitpicky. But I really appreciate you calling in, Illinois college student. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you.
Of course. Everybody, once again, you could always text or call in at 309-451-9299 and share your thoughts. Thank you so much to that last caller, first-time caller, I believe. I mean, I don't remember ever talking to her on this show before. But thank you again for calling in. 309-451-9299 is that number. Now, we're going to take a totally different shift. It's kind of, I can relate it. Here's what I try to do. I always try in my shows to create a theme. And even if I have totally different stories, finding a way to connect them. And so earlier in the show, when I was discussing manliness, I discussed how we need strong men to fight right now. And we also know that we had a Speaker of the House who was kind of wishy-washy, boring, not much of a backbone, Kevin McCarthy. And now we have Mike Johnson. And Mike Johnson is beginning to deliver on some of the promises that he made when he became Speaker of the House, one of which is releasing the January 6th footage tapes. Out of the Daily Wire, the GOP-led House began on Friday to release tens of thousands of hours of video footage from January 6th, the day of the U.S. Capitol breach, to the public. Mike Johnson, who is less than a month into the job, announced the rolling disclosure of more than 40,000 hours of footage to a website. His office said the footage will not include a small portion of video that may contain sensitive security information or information that could lead to retaliation against private citizens. He said, to restore America's trust and faith in their government, we must have transparency. This is another step towards keeping the promises I made when I was elected Speaker. Now, there have been a lot of different tapes coming out and a lot of things that people are making speculation about, and I'm going to cover some of those. And overall, these tapes are kind of damning to the narrative pushed by the woke mob. But I want to show this thing first. I'm going to describe it for you on the radio, and online, I'm going to show it to you. There was one picture that was going around that many were claiming happened to be a badge badge. And so it showed that there was, quote, federal officers and stuff, which has obviously been a common thing that I've heard from some people, that there were federal officers at January 6th and it was all a staged event. But I do want to show you this specific picture online. It is not a badge. It has actually been confirmed that it's a vape through some digging from some other people. It was Kevin James Lyon from Chicago, and it's a vape. Why is he flashing it? Perhaps to prove that he didn't have a gun in his hand. But I just want to be clear to everybody, when we are looking at things regarding this and many other videos and such, we want to make sure that we're thinking critically about it. I know based on firsthand accounts and dozens of stories I've heard on the internet that many believe that January 6th was a setup from federal agents and the federal government disguised as protesters that had the goal of inciting a riot. And while I'm not denying that, it very well could be true. And some of the footage that I've seen kind of shows that that could be a possibility. We have to look at this footage without looking for what we want to fit our narrative. We need to look at this and say, what is actually going on? What is objectively going on in these videos, and ask questions based on that. Don't look to qualify what you already believe, because that is what the left did with the January 6th committee. Need I remind you of the different things they said and did when it came to January 6th before? They selectively released and showed footage that was more violent, scarier, and depicted a very different narrative than what we are now seeing from January 6th. Here's an example of that. This was an ad ran against Ron Johnson, who ran for Senate in Wisconsin, ultimately won. But I want to show you, and you can listen on the radio, to this ad that was played in the 2022 election cycle, because this is the kind of stuff that they did with January 6th. Take a look and a listen.
I'll never forget January 6th, watching my fellow law enforcement officers defending the Capitol, defending our freedoms, defending democracy. And then 5 officers died. But Ron Johnson is making excuses for rioters who tried to overthrow our government, even calling them peaceful protests. Johnson defended Donald Trump's lies and even supported efforts to make it harder for some people to vote at all. Senator Johnson's just not for us. SMP is responsible for the content of this ad.
Oh, well, I'm hopeful that they're actually responsible for the content of that ad, because they lied in it. They lied in it. Or at least they led the public to a belief that wasn't actually true. What was that belief? Well, in it, they said that 5 officers died because of January 6th. 5 officers died. The 5 officers who they claim died, none of which died at January 6th. None died at the scene. 1 was a stroke victim, and the other 4 were suicides. Again, it's all sad, and any loss of life is sad. But the attempt to say that it's Republicans or Ron Johnson's fault for this, and that Ron Johnson is making excuses for the death of these officers, in no way was he doing that. In reality, who could be to blame? Maybe people that denied the National Guard and backup for officers that were there. Maybe it was the people that pushed this narrative that it was a violent insurrection, when more newly released footage shows a much different story. And there's 2 main videos that I really want to cover, but I'm going to cover them at the end of this show in the next segment. I got to take a break here on the radio, but we're going to talk about that and more in the last segment of Speechless. Don't forget to stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back. Okie dokie. I got to make sure I have everything ready. Oh, I think I might have forgotten to bring that. I don't know if I forgot to bring that on the radio. Sorry. It is not easy producing my own show. I want to see what people are saying here in this. We are living in a disposable society for decades. Disposable cars, disposable. Yeah, true. You need to be cloned, Andrea. She's awesome. Glad to see traditional women still exist. I am very much in agreement with that, but they're hard to find. Diamonds in the rough. They're usually like beautiful too. Honestly, they usually are beautiful. I've never met a traditional woman that I haven't found to be strikingly beautiful. Just saying. January 6th was what we all knew. It was a lie made up by the government to go after conservatives. Sound familiar? Exactly. That's kind of what I talked about yesterday with Ty. Okay. I don't usually like to give trolls much of a time of day, but sometimes they just say things that are just so ungodly stupid that I have to. And so, and usually there's one troll that beats out the rest in terms of stupidity. At least in terms of his comments. I don't know him personally, and so I can't say that he as a whole is a stupid person, but I can say the things he says are stupid. One of which is traditional is code for basic. No, because basic would mean that it's the norm, that it's like the gist. And I can tell you, traditional women are not the basic woman nowadays. The basic woman nowadays is pretty much what I've been covering for a lot of this hour. So, okay. I was just like definitively wrong, Larry. You're wrong. You're fired. Be a better troll. At least be intelligent. Okay, I got some of these videos pulled up here. And I'll be back in about a minute and a half to finish up the show. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate it. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment what you think, and share it with your friends. Okay, I'll respond to Larry one more time. Try to substantiate that claim. What I said regarding your traditional is code for basic claim. Well, first off, you are owed no substantiation for any reason, but primarily for the reason that you didn't substantiate your claim that traditional is code for basic. You didn't. So why are you owed a reason for it? And if you would like me to substantiate my claim, go to the majority of college campuses nowadays. You'll see. Have the experience, Larry. And also calling me a Q boy, I am not a QAnon individual, but okay. I'm reasonably skeptical of the things that my government tells me. I don't believe in everything that QAnon says. Reject modernity, embrace traditionalism. Leftist Larry at it again. Got about 20 seconds here. I'm going to make this quick. Good old 1-2 punch with the with the Jan 6 stuff. I think my ick is people with icks. Love it, Raven. 5 seconds until I'm back. Let's do this, everybody. And we are back with Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I have had such a pleasure talking with you guys this Sunday, just as much as every other Sunday. Big reminder to everybody that this week is Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving. And don't get too mad at your liberal family members. They mean well. They just are uninformed. So share them with a video from Speechless, my YouTube channel. I'd really appreciate it. And when you're doing that, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, all that fun stuff. But thank you for listening, period. I have one more thing I want to cover on this show. Oh, I also did want to remind everybody, if you were or just tuning in now on the radio or anything, that it is International Men's Day. So thank a man in your life for whatever sacrifice he has done and for rejecting modernity and embracing traditionalism. Reject modernity, embrace traditionalism. That's how we restore manliness in this country. And also, it's the 160th anniversary of the Gettysburg Address. So amazing day to celebrate America in another way as well. But I'm talking about January 6th for the last few minutes that I have here. January 6th footage has been released. I covered a little bit about the media narrative that it was this violent insurrection, but a lot of these videos are showing a different story. This one, which on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, I'm going to show, actually depicts officers handshaking some of these people that were there. It doesn't really have any audio or anything, and so I'll describe it, but you can see that right there. I'll go back again for those online. You can see right there, giving him handshakes. Well, the narrative I was told was that this was a violent and dangerous insurrection, a threat to democracy. Remember? This was a threat to democracy. And while I don't doubt that there was some violence there and that should be condemned and people that committed real crimes should be prosecuted fairly, which we've seen has not been happening. But but the media narrative that has been pushed onto us is false. Again, I also recognized that there have been many that have claimed that January 6th, in part, was set up by one of our bureaucracies within the federal government, and that there were people there that were not actually protesters or supporters of the movement. They were there with the purpose of trying to incite a further riot. And while I've been skeptical of that claim because I have no firsthand knowledge of it, there is questions that need to be answered regarding this footage that has come up. This shows, and I'm showing it on YouTube and everything, so if you want to go watch it, you can go find it on my YouTube, Speeches with Kev Phares. But it shows an officer that originally has an alleged protester in cuffs, but now they are removing his handcuffs. And then they proceed to give him a fist bump. Now, if this was a violent and dangerous insurrectionist that needed to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, do you think you would handcuff him, unhandcuff him, give him his belongings back, fist bump him, and then let him leave? Does that seem like the kind of thing that would happen to somebody who is a violent, extremist, insurrectionist? Who are these officers? And why did they let this man go? Why was he in handcuffs to begin with? There are so many unanswered questions. But there is one thing that we do know. The media and many in our government have been lying to us. I will never forget this clip when Illinois Republican, Rhino, really, and he gave this speech. And I'm only going to be able to play part of it because we're about to come out off of air. But he gave this speech in the January 6th committee where he got just so emotional.
Colleagues on the committee, thank you to our witnesses. I never expected today to be quite as emotional for me as it has been.
Oh, it's so emotional.
I've talked to a number of you and gotten to know you. I think it's important to tell you right now, though. You guys may individually feel a little broken.
Oh.
You guys all talk about the effects you have to deal with, and you talk about the impact of that day. But you guys won. You guys held. Democracies are not defined by our bad days. We're defined by how we come back from bad days.
So he just gets so emotional, so emotional. Poor Kinzinger, poor you. I wonder what he's doing today. I wonder if those crocodile tears are still shedding on a day in which he was proven to be a liar, which we all knew anyways. But there's still so much to comb through, and by no means am I trying to diminish the fact that January 6th was not a good day. What happened in the Capitol and those who genuinely broke laws should be prosecuted fairly. But the media narrative, the thing I want to focus on is that when the media tells you that it was this terribly violent attack on democracy, equivalent to that of Pearl Harbor or 9/11, you have been lied to, which we've all known. But we have definitive evidence now because of Speaker Mike Johnson. So thank you very much. And thank you for listening, everybody. I'll be back I don't know if I'll be back live next Sunday, but I will have content for you next Sunday. And even the Sunday after, I know I will be live. God bless you. God bless America. And until next time, thank you so much for listening to Speechless. It's been a pleasure. Everybody that is on YouTube and has been watching, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment what you think, share it with your friends, everything like that. And I always want to shout out and say that if you have any story tips, if there's anything I've missed, if there's anything you want me to react to, any off-air content, if you have a story or something that you would like to share and would like to be on my show, my email is there. That's my email. I always try to respond within 24 hours, if not a few hours. So please, please, please shoot me an email. Let me know if there's anything like that. And always tune in, guys. Thank you. Thank you so, so much. I always have a pleasure talking with you guys. Even Larry, you crazy, crazy leftist Larry. But God bless you guys. God bless America. And until next time, thank you so much for tuning in to Speechless.